we begin? So I'm just going to introduce you guys. Okay. Welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Elsa Nelson, along with my co-host, Attila Heltai. And today we're going to be delving in the very fascinating world of past life regression, um, with our special guest, Jules, who's an expert in this field. Jules. And yeah, so I have tried past life regression. I'm so nervous I can't even talk. And I found it to be very beneficial. And Attila, this is sort of like a new concept for him, but he has a lot of great questions. So, Jules, welcome, everyone, welcome. And we're just so thrilled for you to be here. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to speak with both of you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is going to be super exciting.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we're free flowing it too, because I think that's when the good stuff comes out. It's kind of organic that way. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask Jules, I was thinking like where would be a good place to start? And I was thinking like maybe perhaps we could explain what past life regression is. When I mentioned it to Attila, he asked me and I couldn't quite even explain it myself. So I was hoping maybe if you could just shed some light on that, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny for me to enter these spaces when I was in school, like in university, when I was getting my undergrad, I was studying psychology and I wanted to be a therapist or some flavor of psychologist. And there were certain things that were just felt like they were missing, or certain things that were not fully ready in me to hold the kind of space I needed for people, because I couldn't disconnect from people. I would kind of feel everything that they were saying, and I would bring it back with me and feel like I had to fix something or do something for them. So it actually took me a long and kind of circuitous journey through a corporate career that took me through very aggressive uh, multi-million person companies and kind of projects that had nothing to do with kind of healing work, or even digging into these states, until I started traveling through certain countries that have more connection to their indigenous roots. And I love travel. I've traveled a lot. I was trying to be a travel photographer when I was younger, so it's always been a seed there. And when I started to have some experiences with metaphysics, not just in those countries, but in my own just waking life, I thought, it's so interesting that you can use hypnosis to access these inner states. And so, I'm a little long winded about this because it's so exciting to me. These spaces are very interesting to me. But essentially, what I do in my present work, um, I am helping people reach a meditative state, and anyone can reach the state. It's the same state you would reach when you're falling asleep at night or waking up in the morning, or even when you're daydreaming in the car. You're still present, your mind is there, but maybe a 40-minute ride feels like 20 minutes, right? So your body knows how to do that naturally. You don't need to tell it to do something, or like if you cut your hand, you don't say heal to heal it. It knows, the body knows what it's doing. So I also found at that time that the word hypnosis had a charge for me that I didn't really like either. So I thought, what is it in these states, or why has that word um, been connected to that kind of energy, even for me? So it took some time to unpack that as well, and I have some thoughts about that. But essentially, what these modalities, whether it's called past life regression or quantum healing, or even some forms of guided meditation, it's all the same thing. You're getting into a space where you're in a different brainwave frequency. You've basically downshifted your car into a new gear. Your body does that naturally. But in that space, the magic of this work is what you can do and what you can uncover there. And so, what I have understood is that in order to be able to access clearly a past life memory, whether it's something from when you were in the womb and you were nonverbal, or something from childhood that you can generally access pretty easily, but you may not remember all the details of, or even going into a past experience in another lifetime. I do think they're all parallel. I don't think they're actually past. In linear time, they're past or future, but I do think they're all happening in one kind of space simultaneously. Um, Basically, you realize that one of the powerful things you can do in these altered states, which are natural states for the body, is access this type of information. You see it more clearly. You experience it sometimes more viscerally than you would in a dream. Some people say, I'm physically there. I can feel it. I can feel I'm in that body. Um, the intent of this work is to understand that your subconscious is a repository of this information, of your unique, if you want to call it soul data, that's kind of how I look at it. But that information is there, it's stored, whether or not your conscious mind knows it or not. And I've also found, not my original research or anything, but through this work, I found that both in psychology and in many spiritual disciplines, it's understood that we are 90% subconscious. It's maybe 10% of us that is conscious, and yet we are living our lives, most of us, at least here in the Western world, we're moving through the world by trying to chess master with our mind, by trying to figure things out and make it happen. And I was doing that. That was my whole career. And then I understood, why I have all the things that I thought I would want, but it's just not, I don't feel more fulfilled. I actually feel more trapped than ever. Well, because I chess mastered, I built something with my mind instead of surrendering to what was always trying to come through as subtle nudges. But because I could not see where they were going to take me, I didn't want to follow them. So in a nutshell, what these past life regression, quantum healing, whatever you call it, these experiences help us dip into the subconscious. The longer you work, the deeper you're able to dip. Your mind most likely is still there. It's something like 3% of people in their first session totally switch off and don't remember anything. That's by no means a prerequisite to getting healing through understanding, to getting information, to moving energy out of the body. So we're holding a multidimensional space for you to dip into your subconscious, allow what needs to bubble up to come through, and then work through it, and allow things to come into your conscious that are helpful and healing for you so you can shift your life. So I'm a super fan of this, but I found it remarkable. And obviously I get a lot of these sessions done for me too. So constantly learning.
Wow. Thank you so much.
That was a lot. Also, you'll see I can't stop talking about this because it's very interesting to me to explore it.
It really
It's
is.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got it. So I was just gonna say, I love how you said that 90% is like subconscious.
Yeah.
And so when I think about that, I often think about, or like for example, if I'm doing something, you ever like cut yourself and you didn't even realize how you cut yourself until you put on a lotion or water, or you're washing your hand with soap and you feel that burning sensation.
Mhm.
And for me, it was just like, wow, like what happened? I'm trying to figure out what happened, you know? And it's like, was I not aware? And then that just makes me like want to stop and pause and just not, just allow it to just kind of pass, like as if nothing happened. But what really happened? Like, why was I not aware of that? So
Mhm.
I use those to kind of just as a moment to look at myself and just to make that mental note to just like slow down a bit and then just to remember that experience of what happened the last time to um as a point of anchoring to anchor
Mhm.
myself and to remember. So but yeah, you are absolutely right. Like research shows that 70%, like not 70s, the average person has 70,000 thoughts a day. It's so like when I think about it, it's very like straggling because I'm just like, wow, what are we really thinking about? And do we know?
Everything all at once. That's an incredible number, right?
It's amazing. 70,000. So that's like what, 49,000 a week. And so it's like looking back, like how many thoughts did we really, I can't even name, like I can't even tell you. So, but yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I think, like, to your point, everything is happening. I think sometimes we think of our world, or some of us think of our world as two separate realities. It's like the material world and the things that
Mhm.
happen to us here, and the special spiritual world when we pray or
Mhm.
we meditate or do some kind of practice that is kind of beneficial to us in that unseen way. For me, at least, I really thought they were two separate worlds. This work shows me that they're not. They're so intertwined, and like those seemingly little experiences, like cutting your body, right? Causing some harm to your body, maybe by rushing or not slowing down,
Yeah.
and then realizing, wait, this is, I do think this is a matrixed reality, and it's through this work that I believe that. But I mean, I see it with clients, the way people stack up, the way they regress to the same time and place in a row, and then nobody does for, nobody goes to ancient Egypt for another year, but three in a row go there. So three people will heal a similar energy in the body, also like, within 2 weeks of each other, and then I just don't see anything like that for a long time. I realized these echoes, or these little hints that we get, like, hey, you cut yourself, you didn't even notice, slow down,
Yeah.
right? You're picking up on, it's not like a random thing that just happened, like the universe is punishing you or something bad is happening. It's just totally random. Everything is threaded, everything is connected. And so I think it's when we slow down to listen, which is literally what you're doing in hypnosis. You're slowing yourself down to listen, to see, to feel, to hear. And you start to realize such a huge volume of information starts to come through. That's when your mind steps aside and says, okay, I'm not creative enough to make this up this quickly. I understand I'm stepping into some kind of stream of content. It's coming through my entire body. I'm receiving. For a lot of people, it's visual. I'd say 70% of people immediately start to see something subtle. Other people might start to say, did you spray something in the room? I'll say, no, I would never, I don't spray anything. I try not to have any fragrances. Some people are sensitive. They'll say, well, I smell gardenias. So as you put your focus there, things unfold. But it's an echo. Just because you have your eyes closed and you downshifted to this brainwave frequency, when you do enough of this work, you realize, wait, I can have my eyes open, be in this state, but be listening on that finer level and receive hits in my waking reality. That's just now opening to me, and I'm starting to get a taste of what that feels like. It's careful listening. These hypnotic states help you do that when you're having a peak experience working with a practitioner or doing an audio. You say, whoa, I actually feel a little different after that. Or I see, I found something and I was able to shift myself by making a decision to integrate what I learned in that state. But you can actually use it in your waking life. And that's the part that I find really remarkable. These states teach us exactly what you said. Like, hey, I keep getting a slow down message. Maybe I should just slow down. Like, there's some reason I need to slow down.
It's fantastic. I can feel your passion for this.
There's a lot.
It's coming through a lot, and I just want to ask, like, how can exploring past lives contribute to greater self-awareness and also personal growth in our daily lives? So how can it translate into that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a super fan. This is where my focus is at this moment. This is something I think everybody should try once, if it speaks to you. If it feels weird or forced, that is not in resonance. I would never force something like this because this is not work that can be forced. It's flow. You're coming to a practitioner or you're doing self-guided work. To step into a stream of information, let it show you what you need to see, whether or not your conscious mind might expect it in that package.
Yeah.
So I guess I would say the real value is to know thyself. I mean, I do think that's what we're, right? That's your question. Like, who am I? What am I? Why am I here having this experience? For most of us, we're going through something difficult when we're seeking this experience out. We say, I've changed country, I've changed jobs, I've changed partners, I've changed everything over my X number of years on this planet, and I still see there's certain patterns that I don't like that are following me around. It's something with me. It's something with me. I see it, I hear it, I'm willing to accept that, but I don't know what to do from. I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with that. Or I have, there's so many scenarios like that. Some people, it's a relationship. They say there's this person that's come into my life, and I just saw them for the first time, and they shook everything up in my life. Some people call crying on my client line to say that they're like, I don't know if I even need a session. I just need you to tell me, am I crazy? Is this happening to other people? It's like, yes, it's happening to other people. All kinds of things that we cannot explain consciously are happening to other people. So, oops, we lost him. But this is this is permission to kind of go into those spaces and understand, well, why is this happening?
Back.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's giving yourself permission to go into your subconscious, to go into the unseen, and just ask, what am I not seeing? What am I not hearing? Why is this pattern bubbling up? Is there more to the story? So I would even say, I think because past lives touch upon religion, or they touch upon belief systems, that can get, that can touch on a very sensitive area for some people. For me personally, I didn't grow up with religion, and so there was always this hope in me that there was more. I was like, I just know there's got to be more. It can't just be this. I just feel it. But I will. My belief was, when it happens, I'll believe it. So it has to. I have to be shown what it is first, and then I'll integrate the belief. But again, through this work, I've seen you have to expand. Not have to, but to integrate this type of information as you expand your field of belief to just include other possibilities. You will see that then seemingly miraculous things start to come into your experience. And that's what I've seen practicing these modalities. Things have happened in the sessions that I didn't know were possible. That means physical changes in the body. That means instant release of some kind of symptom that maybe has been bothering the person for a long time. And then long-term shifts too. And it's not just me getting these results, like I'm doing something magical. I'm obviously very passionate about it. I love it. But there's many people to learn from and to learn with and to take things even deeper. So I even think with past lives, a lot of people say, well, they're all happening at once. When you access a past life, you can help heal those other aspects of your soul that are having that experience. You can say, hey, do you see that in that past life where you had a very violent death and you made a vow to never forgive, or something pretty intense like that? Do you see that you now have another chance to do it differently? You don't have to hang on to that vow. It's affecting this other aspect of your soul that's having another experience. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, okay, yeah, I get it. I don't want to carry that anyway. It's a kind of a dead weight to carry to the other side with me. So I think these experiences are to stretch us, to understand our own human experience, human capacity, and to allow us to kind of question our reality through direct experience. Once you're in those states and you're having a very powerful physical experience, you might realize, well, yeah, the mind speaks in symbol and metaphor. We can ask the higher self, that was that symbol or metaphor? Was that a past life? Was that actually a future timeline, a future possibility? And you'll get that information. And again, different people connect at different levels, at different strengths. But for many, it's a clear channel of subconscious flow. They'll answer, and then the person says, wow, I kind of had an inkling of that, but some of this was brand new information. I'm amazed that came from within me. So this is self-exploration. I've never had anybody leave my studio and say, wow, that shook up my religion, or my, like it broke some belief that's been very dear to me. It's the opposite. It's strengthened that, helped me expand and say, wow, there's even more beauty here to explore. And I can literally explore it through direct experience, through myself. And it aligns with what I have already kind of fallen in love with in the practices that I'm already authentically drawn to, and find strength in my life, because those things give us hope. And this gives you a direct experience confirming that, yeah, there's more. You get to go into that if you want.
Yeah, wow. It's just a lot to unpack there. So you've touched on a lot of things.
Yeah, I wrote a lot of questions, and you're answering them like
Go
synchronicity.
ahead. Go
It's
ahead and
amazing.
go with your
No,
question.
no, go for it, Elsa. I'm just saying, like, all the questions I have written down, it's like Jules is answering them.
That's awesome. I'm telling you,
Almost-
once I get rolling, my friends are like, you need to stop talking about this. You need to talk
no,
to other people. So thank you for having me here, because I've overloaded my circle of people. They're like, we've heard enough, and I can't stop. So
No, more people needs to hear this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, you know, you mentioned like two separate, you know, like how we view, we're
Mhm.
two separate. We have this inner world and the outer world. And sometimes we tend to view it as two separate
Mhm.
things when in actual it is really one. Um, it was, you know, there was recently Attila and I, we have this friend, and like he could not understand what the inner looked like, and what, you know, he only could, it was just so challenging for him
Mhm.
to identify what is which. So I was wondering if you could, I mean, if you could elaborate on that or explain to, if you could speak on that, please, that would be awesome.
Yeah. And kind of course correct me if I'm going in a direction that doesn't align. I guess I'm thinking of my own experience, and that's what I can kind of really freely speak to. I would say I was in a very mental kind of headspace most of my teen years, and I was kind of shocked by what I would see in the news and in the world. And in my family, we moved around a lot, so we did move country. I moved um, through different scenarios, and I found that in every place I went, I was viewed differently. I was like I was still me, but I was received in different ways. And I realized how radically that all affects your experience. And it made me ask, well, who am I? And when I later started to have a more spiritual opening, probably when I was around maybe 22 years old, I was living in Los Angeles, and my mom came to visit me, and I was like, I just need help building my IKEA bed or whatever it was, and she wanted to go to an ashram. I was like, oh man, it's gonna take all day. I was a little salty, and I sat in this garden, and I had my first experience where I felt something unusual kind of happen, and I didn't have any words for it. I didn't even know. I didn't know till more recently what the word metaphysics even meant. But I sat there, and I almost felt like everything went still. Like my body, my mind, everything was quiet. It was just a few seconds, maybe a minute, but I almost felt like somebody like threw a blanket on me and just it went quiet. And a few years later, I was leaving Los Angeles. My mom had given me the book of Paramahansa Yogananda, whose ashram that had been.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, at that point, I was ready to read it. And I went through the whole thing. And in there, he says to people who feel connected to my message, to my work, maybe even past followers, I've left breadcrumbs in my garden. And
Oh,
I
wow.
thought, oh, is that what it was? You know, it's like a secret. But I didn't, it was the first moment where something in me through my experiences had expanded enough to allow that to happen. But I heard it, I paid attention to it. I didn't
Mm,
think much of it, but it was profound enough that I remembered it. So when I
mm,
read it in the book, I was like, oh, what? Is that how it works? Like, it's
Yeah.
like a secret. Like, is that what it could be? And so, you know, those things expand us. So that's when we realize um, there's so much happening all around us. For me, it took tragedy to kind of snap out of certain elements of my life where I was just locked into a track like a train moving in one direction with one headlight, 200 miles an
mm,
hour. I'm like, I'm doing things, I'm building things. This is, you know, I'm doing all the right things that I feel I should be doing at this moment in my life with love and career and everything. And there was that nudge to slow down. The tragedies were slow down, pay attention. And I had a really hard time doing that because I didn't understand what else was there to pay attention to. It's the outer manifestation of my inner. That's my life, right? It's there's certain success metrics were kind of shown in different cultures. They're different, but here I've lived in the U.S. more than 30 years now. You know, money is a big focus. I'm like, okay, well, I'm making my money, and you know, we were going to buy a house, great. So I really I don't want to say I don't want to judge it, but that's kind of I thought, okay, well, I'm secure, I'm independent. That's what I have been striving for. So it's happening. So why are these tragedies happening, or what does it mean? Why did I do something wrong, or like am I being punished? It's just you start to ask these questions of like, well, what is this all about? Or when things seem to be going so well, suddenly you realize they shift. Or when things are going really difficult, you kind of feel the energy like something's gonna shift. It's all
Mm-hmm.
phases and phases and phases. And you go through more of life and you realize there seem to be echoes of the same phases over and over and over. And I thought, what is causing that? Like, how and why is that happening? And that's when they're not available anymore. But it used to be that through Paramahansa Yogananda's foundation, you can sign up for these lessons. They just send you like it used to be every week, every 2 weeks in the mail. They would send you a little packet, really thin, just kind of like how to think about moving through the world. And it was not really religious. It was just very just showing you how to think in a balanced way. I felt like it was like showing you the middle way, the middle path, how to understand your reality, how to dip into your reality and ask these questions. And I wasn't ready for it. I would have some kind of difficult event and I would open the binder and I was like, I'll do this when I'm 40, or, like I want to get back out there. I have other things to do. I don't want to become a monk or a nun or something. I just, I don't. So I had all these thoughts of like, no, I need these experiences, but I still wasn't understanding. Um, those are extreme thoughts. This was all nudging me within. And I think it looks different for every person. But what I see through sessions is that what is within us is really beautiful. It's really powerful and it's really profound. And so, with your friend, I don't know what's happening in his or her life, but I know that sometimes it's very painful to look inside because we fear that there's something ugly there, that there's something bad, or like maybe we're going to find something bad and it's like, okay, well, I'm just bad and this is why things are not working for me, or I somehow deserve this, or all kinds of things, all kinds of conditioning. But I also find as you go deeper into it, for me, at some point, it accumulated many years later, and eventually selling my house that I was so proud that where it was, and it was near my office, and wow, it's such a big deal, and where I was working, and I felt my family was so proud. Again, we're from another country, so it's like, oh, to get to this level, how great. But I realized it didn't resonate at all. I didn't need any of those things, and it's not like it was something really crazy, but for me, it was a really big deal. And I understood it's a shedding of layers.
Mhm.
It's then saying, it's again like, who am I when I remove this object, or I remove
Mm-hmm.
this career? I really thought at that moment I was that career, that is what gave me value as a being, and that without that money, without that um, status, or even my title, or whatever, um, that I wasn't sure. I was like on a really slippery footing. I was like, I actually don't know who I am without that. And I also don't know how these beliefs even got into my system. And so I do think we get caught up in these systems that are meant to keep us competitive with each other. And that keeps us from just settling into ourselves, what we ultimately want, right? It's like, well, you should want another promotion. You should want a newer car. You should want this stuff. And it's not that I don't want stuff. I need a car. I need to make money to do my work and to study and to travel and do all the things I want. But it's more, again, it's like through these experiences, finding a balanced way and just giving yourself a course correction. Hey, I've gone too extreme. For me, there were difficulties in my childhood that made me hyper independent. I have to be independent. Can't rely on anybody. And then I
Mm-hmm.
realized at some point, whoa, this is like, that was great. That was a great stimulus to get me to the next step, of choosing a career that was exciting, but also that could sustain me. But then it went into hyper overdrive, and after 15 years, it was in a totally different direction than where I needed to go, and I couldn't listen. And I started getting those nudges like, "Hey, this is done. You need to be moving in a whole new way." I couldn't let go, and then I had to let go, and I understood. Oh, okay, I wasn't listening. So things get more extreme as we don't listen. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but I think
Yeah.
it's all interwoven, interlaced, and it's about realizing you are both experiences. And it's only by asking deeper questions that you can really know what your soul is nudging you to do. I do think we all
Mhm.
have a soul aligned path that resonates with us. And one client's higher self said, she said, "You're only in competition with previous versions of yourself." And that has hit me more deeply than anything
Wow.
I think I've heard. I was like, oh, I was always, especially as a young person, I was like, oh, well, these people are doing that. Maybe I need that. Or once I get that, that'll make me feel a certain way. But it wasn't that. And it was the kind of profound statement like that. I was like, oh, it's always just been me and myself having this experience and realizing I need to align with what's trying to come through me and have faith that as I align to that, I will get daily synchronicities, nudges that show me how it should unfold, and that my mind is not going to be 2 steps ahead. It's going to be like 5 steps behind. And I somehow have to go from the extreme where I was to now surrendering to that. That was very
Yeah.
rough and painful. That was a very rough and painful journey for me. And so, and it's funny because even now, I'm like, I'm here. My inner guidance took me here, and then the mind still is like, okay, but now I'm in charge of this part. It's like,
Mhm.
no, 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 no. That's not what it is. You go into deeper and deeper surrender, and the things that open up to you are so beautiful, so shockingly profound, and so much bigger than anything I could have manifested on my vision board or something. Like, it is so much bigger than anything I knew even existed to want, that I understood that it was just anchoring into the energy of surrender. And that was, I think that's one of my life lessons in this life, is to have faith in the journey.
Could
So
you elaborate on how to consciously surrender?
I think it starts small. First, you are listening to heartfelt nudges.
Mhm.
When you're in a bad feeling place, do not make decisions from that place. Don't make decisions that will shape your life and shape your reality. You want to be in a neutral or good feeling place. And if for
Mhm.
you that means missing out on some exploding offer, let it drop and just see what happens. Sometimes we feel like we can't, have to do it. I have to act on it. That's a story. That's also a
Mhm.
story. Um, when you start to find that you like what's happening, when you're moving from that kind of good feeling place, you start to meet people, you start to have experiences that open up
Mhm.
to you that you think, oh, I would have never, I could have never dreamt that up.
Yeah.
Um, what I have found through this work is that it seems that some of that multidimensional higher self guidance, sometimes it kind of comes down to us and it's stored, it bypasses the conscious mind because it's like, you're not going to get this. And it
Mhm.
gets stored as a will impulse in our unconscious, in our subconscious. And when we get a very strong nudge to do something from a good feeling place and we listen to it, could be something small, it doesn't require a huge financial investment, or it does, I don't know, you choose how deep you want to go and how fast. But let's say it's something small. You're like, I could do that. I can take tomorrow off and take my kids to this place. I just get such a strong feeling. And let's say you do it and you meet someone there and you have a profound conversation and it opens up some kind of friendship or some kind of connection
Mhm.
point. That's not something you can mentally force to happen. But
Yeah.
when you're listening to your own body, those impulses come through the body. Again, for me, it feels like a nudge. It's like, oh, why don't you, again, slow down, like Elsa said, slow down. And then you get the impulse. And then you just say, oh, well, does that resonate? Does that feel good?
Mhm.
You have no idea where it's going to take you. But if it feels good and it came to you while you were feeling good, trust it. It may not turn out in a way your ego likes, even. Sometimes these experiences are a little
Yeah.
confusing. Um, but I would say if you want to play in these spaces, start small and just release judgment of what's happening. Sometimes you don't see what's happening till 10 steps out. If you give up
Mhm.
on the second step, okay, it's okay. You'll get another opportunity. It's not like the universe just says, oh, okay, I'm done with you. No, this is your journey, it's your experience. So start small, but as you gain faith in that process, take a bigger leap. for me, the big leap was to sell everything and use, my own financing as seed money to start this kind of training, these travels, which ultimately led to my business, which I continue to do. Like, I will never stop traveling. I will never stop learning these things, because once you open one door, you see there's 1,000 doors about that show you what we can do in these spaces, and that show you how incredibly powerful we are. And when we get cut off from that power by plugging into things that don't serve us, that never served us, that just occupy our mental space, and take our energy, sometimes in the form of money, that's not. I had to go through that to a certain point to see this is not fulfilling me. I have to move a different way. And the surrender, I forced myself into the surrender, and it was painful too.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to let it get to that point, because you don't have to be as hard headed as I was.
Um, yeah, wow. That's I think that's the key, is to, to pay attention to our guide, which is our feeling. And
Mhm,
I strive to use my feeling as my, it's my compass. It just lets
mhm,
me know if I'm going up or down. And oftentimes I think, at least for me, when I don't follow that, and I think some people can relate to this too, when they say, oh God, the gut feeling, I should have listened to it after the fact,
mhm,
so after, like, I think it's just by paying attention to these events that take place, and just not write them off, oh, that just happened, oh well, and just, but to just really be mindful of it and to remember it. And
mhm,
I think, for me at least, it's about remembering and not forgetting to remember this, this occurrence when I cut my hand, what happened, I need to slow down, or
mhm,
just when I get that hunch and not following up with it through, etc. So it's just, for me, it's just about remembering to
mhm,
remember. And sometimes I do, oftentimes I do, and sometimes I don't, and that's okay. But it's just, for me, there was something you said too about that, who am I? And that's the
mhm,
question that we all ask ourselves, right?
mhm,
At some level or not, whether we're showing up the best version of ourselves, and it's just said in so many ways. The unsaid, who am I? And, um, the better version of myself, the authentic self, etc. For me, it was, I think I shared this with you when we met. It was, when I was a young kid. I grew up on a farm basically, and I saw myself in the mirror for the very first time.
mhm,
That was so profound to me. Like, how come I didn't know that was me?
mhm,
Like, why did I not know what I looked like? So, and I felt, so that was what really pushed me to want to learn, to uncover more. And my crumbs, where I found my crumbs, was when I heard Anthony Robbins, because up to that point, I was about 17, I thought everyone else knew something and I didn't, and everyone was keeping it away from me. And I was on a mission to discover what they're hiding from me. And so when I heard Anthony Robbins say, they are, he said, I believe you and I are kindred spirit. He said, the reason why I said that, and he goes on to say, and the moment he said that, I was like, oh, he knows the secret. He's going to tell me. And I believed him like 100%, like, this man is going to tell me. And it was so interesting because what I was looking for to hear and what he was saying it was two separate things, but also, connected at some level. But I thought, oh, he's going to tell me who I am. Like,
mhm,
he's going to answer my question. So I continued to listen and listen, re-listen. And I kept telling myself, okay, just be patient. He'll tell you. My
mhm,
perception was just completely different. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just, I literally believe he was talking to me. Like, literally, like he was speaking to me,
mhm,
and that he's gonna tell me. So I went years and years, like, listening, and just like, when is this guy gonna tell me? Until 2007, I discovered that, hey, self-discovery, it's like, it's a forever thing. It's a journey.
mhm,
And, And that's when I began to like really just delve into like just different things, obviously. But yeah, I think so. The question, who am I? For me, like where I stand right now in this moment, is sometimes, often we think the thinker, the chatter that goes on inside our mind, that's us.
Mhm.
But I've come to discover that's not me.
Mhm.
That's not who I am. Like who I am is very subtle.
Mhm.
It whispers. It's not loud, and it's positive and not negative. So then I went through this process of what do you call it, self talk. So
Mhm.
I became mindful of that. What am I saying to myself? And it's interesting. Everything that somehow it all seemed to fit in that moment. Like everything made sense. Like, oh, my thoughts of what this person said and that person said. I was able, like you said, it just being able to expand everything, and how you see everything is like interconnected. And it's like, wow, like
Yeah.
something so small yet so big, you know?
What's that moment like everything clicks?
Yeah, like literally everything just like clicks, and it's like, wow, now I get it. Like I
Mhm.
get it, but then once I thought I got that, then you come with something else and discover something else, and you get, and you're like, whoa, now
Like
I
an
know.
up leveling, right? Because it's like, okay, I like just stepped up. I'll never step back down. But from here, there's like a whole new set of stuff that now I have to, to like figure out somehow.
Absolutely. And it's just, and then that's when I realized the more I learn, the more I really don't know anything.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And that brings me back to that, what you mentioned, what you said earlier. There's so many bad aspects of ourselves, of myself. So it's like, wow, there's
Mhm.
this part of me, there's another aspect of me. So just I love just seeing when things connect for me, how
Mhm.
all those pieces or the aspect of myself just like coming together, and it's like, ah, wow. And then it just I see life a little bit different than I did before.
Yeah.
The things that used to frighten me no longer frighten me.
Hmm.
Um, but there may be some things that it may frighten. It's as you say, as you're leveling up, right? There's always that
Mhm.
challenge, and as
Mhm.
the challenge comes up, so there's things like in that fear. I guess it's there. It always creeps up,
Mhm.
but it's different this time because I'm able to look at it realistically rather than feed it or feed into it. So yeah, so it's just so incredible that in this journey that we're in, and all of us, whether we know it or not, we're all on a journey, and it's just beautiful, and it's just incredible,
Mhm.
it's just magical. And if we just allow it and allow our feeling to guide us, and let that be our guide. Like when I say feel, it's just like to feel good, like genuinely, like
Mhm.
like you mentioned, does this feel right to me? When we get into that space, when we feel that, it's just like, wow.
Now, what you said, your story deeply moved me, especially about what you described about seeing yourself in the mirror and understanding the chatter in my head is not me. That's not the person I see in front of me. But you also loved her, right? You felt love for her. You're like, I want to play with her. Who's this wonderful child? And I thought,
Mhm.
it's as we keep leveling up, we're all doing it, right? It's like you're playing a game. At the end of each level, there's some kind of different challenge that you have to overcome. And it sounds so easy once you get through it, but in the moment, you're like, oh, this is not, it sounds easy on paper, but now I'm down here doing it. Oh, I can see why it's not easy at all. And it's those moments of synchronicity or silence or just letting things amaze you, where you realize I could have never, the chatter in my mind, that is what you said, 70,000 thoughts a day, that's not me. That is attracting things to me. But I do think everything starts on the level of thought, and we're receiving on the level of feeling. So as we're putting out thoughts, thoughts are energy. I have some very gifted clients in many different ways, and everybody who comes shows me that every single human being has a spark of something so incredible in them, and
Mhm.
it's packaged in different ways, and it's wrapped in a different wrapper. but there's beauty. Like I see the beauty in every person I talk to because that's what they're showing me, right? They're like, I'm here to understand myself. I'm here to know myself. And you start to see that the stories we tell ourselves, that brings more and more, that's our lens. So that's how everything that comes becomes. It becomes what you believe it should be, or what it kind of reinforces within you, until you dig in and say, oh, wow, that was, a lot of people come and they say, I have dense emotion in the body. I just feel like I can't move forward. I already have 80 plans written out. I can't move forward on them. I don't know what is stopping me. And they dip into the subconscious. And again, it seems so simple, but it's not. It's something from childhood, this childhood. They may say, oh, I internalized, I see a scene where, my family is arguing about money, and I just don't understand why I have such a fear around money. I have millions of dollars and all my assets and banks and whatever, but I have this tremendous fear, and I
Mhm.
have a lot of shame around the money, and I, even though so much is coming in, I can never hang on to it, or I feel like people use me for them. There's just one thread, and then you realize there was something that that child saw in a very innocent way that then became internalized as a lens of reality to see the entire later experience through. Um, and it's just a story. It's just a thread. And people come for this kind of work or other types of modalities. They see it, they face it, and you just ask, "Are you ready to release it? Can you talk to that child and see it from another perspective?" And they're like, "Oh," and that's the whole shift. That's the shift of saying, "Oh, it was never that. That's just with my tools then, that's how I saw it. That's what got lodged in my subconscious, in my story, in my chatter. That chatter has been self perpetuating for X number of years, and it's affected my whole life. And
Mm.
it's bubbling up things like that, that again sounds so simple. When you see it, when I see it happen in front of me, I'm like, oh, they flow to that so easily. Like that scenario just bubbled up from within. I'm just creating a space where they can go and recall something. I don't nudge them towards a specific event. I don't pretend that I know what it is, even if they've disclosed a lot of stories to me. So you realize, okay, there's so much within us. And I do start to see it as many separate parts that you can address differently when something bubbles up and it causes a panic, and you feel that fear, and you're like, it feels like something is coming to get you and take you out, and it can manifest in a personal relationship. You think, oh, that's my trigger. I don't want anyone close to that, because that's where the weapons have to come out. I have to fully
Mhm.
protect myself. Nobody's getting in that space, or there's a wall. You're not getting past that wall. And then you start doing these experiences, you might find, oh, I took a past life vow, or I was talking to one of my friends about this recently. He said, I took the same vow for 5 different lifetimes, and I needed to see that on his own journey. And there are things entering his experience in this lifetime that keep challenging him to step out of that vow. But it was only by going on that journey and then doing the inner dips that he even understood that there's a past life vow, not even from childhood in this life. There's something totally inaccessible to the conscious mind that is affecting his reality, how he moves, how he interacts with people, and how he structures his life. And once you find it, it's so simple. You're like, oh, it needs to leave. I break that vow. I take my energy back from it. And literally, as you move that energy, your physical reality will start to reflect that change. It's seemingly wild, but it's not, once you realize that's the subtle invisible world seems to be very logical and structured. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's just like a random chaos. It's what's in our heads that's
Mm.
feels like chaos, because there's just so much.
That's
So, yeah, go for it, Elsa. Sorry.
God. No, no, don't be.
So Jules, I'm super interested in how would a session look like with you? Say, for example, there's two major questions in a lot of people's lives. One is who am I, and what is my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
So, in your sessions, how would this build up to the client realizing those answers within them?
Yeah, so I think there's a few ways to get at that, but everything I do at this point in my work, I always work through the higher self. And the model that I found that makes the most sense to me, it kind of satiates my soul and also my mind, is that the higher self is an incarnate part of the soul that sits slightly outside of time. It's in that
Mhm.
timeless space that allows you to access information that to us seems like linear past, present, future, but it just is. It's here that it feels that way to us
Mhm.
because we're having a linear experience for a reason.
Mhm.
Um, so to close your eyes, enter a meditative state with the help of somebody, and to start to flow. All my modalities, and I didn't invent them, these were masters who trained for decades and decades. And I've learned from many people now. And the intersection point that deeply is resonant with me is letting the higher self drive. I don't bubble up scenarios and say, go back to this and tell me what's
Mhm.
happening. I create a space where first we talk, and even the talk has become over the years more free flowing. Before, I felt like I had to ask certain questions. And I still do. I still need certain details so I know the names of the important people in your lives and some milestones. But I found if I allow a person to talk, some people, I give like a little spiel like, hey, this is going to happen today. You're going to feel with your whole body. People are like, I know, I just need to, like, it's already coming. The talk is already coming. And so,
Mhm.
um, the talk is very important. It's you telling me your life story through your own vantage point. Or if we're doing a shorter session, it's you telling me about the thing you most want to heal through understanding. And
Mhm.
that could be a purpose question. I feel I have no direction. I just don't know why I'm not satisfied. At the very least, I want to understand what this is all about. And so, as you talk, especially if we're talking, the longer sessions are up to 6 hours. They're 4 to 6 hours.
Wow.
And the first part is talk, and you're free flowing. I ask you again, tell me your life story. Go back in the time machine. From some people have actual memories from the womb, but others
Mhm.
have stories of when their mom was carrying them or what they know from their adoptive parents or however it happened. We start there, and then you don't need to talk in a linear way. I can't possibly hear every detail of everything that's happened, but you'll find as you talk, you naturally flow to certain areas. And some people say, oh, I really didn't want to talk about that for an hour. But if that's where you went, that's what's bubbling up from your subconscious.
Mhm.
We forget that we are these multiple layers. Things want to come through. Your body knows what we're doing. Your mind doesn't. It's going to
Mhm.
try to control. As I allow people to talk in a free flowing way, they get on a roll. I find out what their passions are. I find out what's happened to them. All the questions I would have before kind of poked to get answers to, I don't need to. I might ask and say, hey, tell me the names of everybody. I need to know the names in case they bubble up because I don't want to interrupt the journey and say, who is that? Um, so as you free flow, some people say, wow, I'm seeing patterns here. Like I can see that what I just told you from my life has a thread running through it. Um,
Mhm.
hello. and
Hello.
and so some people notice patterns in their life. Some people notice ancestral patterns. They're like, whoa, when I just told you that aspect of my life story, I understand that my mom used to do the same thing in a different way. And this is like a modified version of that. And
Mhm.
actually, what I know about her childhood, that same kind of pattern was playing out in her childhood in a slightly different package, too. So I can see there's been improvement, but whoa, we're all dealing with the same thing here. Other people say, I have never seen things from this perspective. As I put it all out there and just hear myself speak, like something is shifting in me. I'm starting to see things that I never had a moment to look at in this way. Because how often do you have, right? It's usually back and forth, back and forth. One person talks, then the other, and it kind of goes where it needs to go. But this isn't that kind of conversation. It's a space to dip in and start already dipping into your subconscious by just allowing flow to happen. Um, After 2, 3 hours, we can both feel we got through the main work. Um, then, if we're doing the longer session, I'll go through your list of questions. Again, some people bring whatever's in their heart. It could be purpose questions, etc. That's for me to understand your intent. Like, what is the heartfelt intent with these questions? Then we journey, and the journey is again free flowing. I help you stay in a brainwave frequency that is very kind of calm and soothing for you, almost like you're asleep. The body will start to feel like it's asleep. Body's already, most people by 2 hours of talk, they're melting into the sofa. They're kind of like
Mhm.
rubbing the material or the pillows because it's very intense, right? We don't do that every day. And the body knows what we're doing. The subconscious knows exactly what we're doing. And the mind is like kind of surrendering at that point. So during the journey, some people will spontaneously go to childhood. They're kind of like easing themselves into it. They'll see scenes. Sometimes they find they need to say something they didn't say. They need to take some power back. Okay. They're starting to see, the mind is starting to trust, the protective part is trying to trust how this works. And at some point, some people go right in. Some people, I just need to get out of their way. They're going through 5 past lives, and I need to just be
Right,
quiet. And it's just
right.
happening. Um, Again, I have no. I've stopped guessing where it's going to go because it's always a hundredfold bigger than anything I could make up. Later, I'll say, "Ooh, there was a pattern." Like other people recently had a kind of a similar experience. Isn't that interesting? But I also have to surrender, allow it to happen, and I see my job as to help the person go deeper into what's happening, use my understanding of the invisible to push the right buttons to help them understand what can be done from that space in real time. Do they need to get their power back? Do they need to, if it's inner child, do they need to say something to that child that that child was so devastated by something, has created a whole life story around this thing? It's still bothering them. They just need to know that they are safe, that they're safe in their body, they're safe in their experience. Um, we're all going through the same. It's a lot of the same across many people. And sometimes you go to a past life, they pop right into a past life, and they're physically feeling it, and they may go through 5 past lives and see, when we ask to speak to the higher self, well, why did you bubble up past lives, or why did you spend the whole time in childhood, or why did you pop into a future possibility? What did you want the person to see and experience today? And what the higher self will integrate and put into place for the person is so profound. I not that I know everything that's out there, but in the modalities I've seen and the things I've experienced, I've not found something so compelling to have your own inner being tell you why you're having these experiences, why things are following you around. And in some sessions, I do see that people will recall some level of soul planning. They'll actually remember, kind of metaphorically, sitting down and saying, "When I'm 35, I'm going to cross paths with this person, with this other soul." And
Wow.
what we hope will happen is that we both learn our lesson, whatever that thread is for this time. Um, but then we get down here, we have free will, and so does that other person. You can love them or hate them, or choose to treat them kindly or unkindly. We don't know how it will go, but it seems to be a game of probabilities. If I have this crisis when I'm 12 years old, I think it's gonna. I think my soul is so sturdy that I think it's going to propel me to open in a way that it would have taken me 5 lifetimes to do if I didn't have this one peak experience that might be really hard at that age, and that just broke me open. For people to access that type of information, it didn't come from me, it didn't come from their mind because it's new information to them. Integrating something like that and saying, wow, there's so much happening on a level that we cannot see in the subtle as we go through our physical experiences. We often judge this experience was bad because I felt upset. It hurt me. It brought me into fear. But it's sometimes when you're brought into fear, you're brought into relationship conflict. That's when you pause and say, all this other stuff I'm chasing needs to go on the back burner. And actually, it needs to stay there. Because as I dip into myself and actually ask, what is playing out here? Like, I've got to put an end to this. This cannot continue. What you find is not just the answer to that, but you find that you have a lot of power in you, that you planned a lot of this experience, that nothing bad is happening to you. It is happening for you. And that to me, I wanted to reject that concept so much when I first read it in Paramahansa Yogananda's book because it made me angry. And now I feel completely different about it. So you realize it's not just happening to you, it's happening for you, and it is in some way written by you. And when you realize that, you're like, wait a minute, stop everything. What do I do with that lens of reality? And you can shift your entire life, and at some point realize, if I wrote this and now I'm consciously aware that I'm writing this as I go, can't I just break all the rules of how
Yeah.
things were not going well for me and just put new rules in place and like wake up and move in a whole different way? And the answer is yes. And I see people doing that. And I see some really young people doing incredible things. Like, they're not going through the trauma, they have their own difficulties and challenges, but they are just plugged in. They already know that. They know that they are writing the rules and they're just going big. And for
Mm.
me, that's very exciting to see, because I think that's the future for all of us, to understand, okay, I'm so powerful that I created this whole experience, and now
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewire the rest of it. But that also means, I don't want to say this in a way that feels painful, but there's a certain we all have this to a certain degree. When something very painful happens, there's a part of us, kind of like the ego part, right? The self, the chattering mind that wants to be outraged. Like, how could this person do that? They're just, they are just awful. The situation is awful. I mean, I've had many of those moments in my life, and I understand, no, 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 no. Like, it's not that. Often the people that are enmeshed in your life and that are very difficult, when you get over to the other side, your souls are laughing like, oh yeah, we try to do it the nice way. Now we had to do it the rough way. And I'm your friend. I'm your soul friend. I came here to help you break open to this inner truth that you are fully powerful. You're creating this experience. Own it. It's time for you to own it. And through that pain, we thought that there would be a good chance that this would put you on the fast track to actually stepping into your power, getting done in the physical what you want to get done, and learning a lot faster than if it was kind of like a lazy river. But sometimes it's so nice to get a lazy river life where you can just
Yeah.
just chill a little bit. So
Sure.
It's like you have to go. It's like that initial push, when you're pushing that big ball of, I don't know, this big rock you're trying to push down the hill.
mhm,
Yeah, like once you push it, I mean, the initial start is very challenging, it's very hard, and there's a lot of resistance. But
mhm,
once you push it just down the hill, I think, and I
mhm,
feel like that life is that way too. I mean, like you said, we create everything throughout
mhm,
that, whether we are aware of it or not, whether we mean to or not, we're still
mhm,
doing it. And I think taking that responsibility
mhm.
is, um, it's really tough, because it's like, I wouldn't dare create this reality, and
Why would I do that? That's crazy.
I to
Oh,
myself, that's crazy. What are you talking about? But
mhm,
that, again, is just taking those thoughts and just really think about it. Am I really doing that? Or
mhm. And what are the implications? If I am, couldn't there be an upside to that too? Right?
exactly,
Like a huge upside.
absolutely. So, but that, like you said, that ego, that initial, there's that
Mhm,
resistance that says, "Well, no, I'm not doing this. Why would I do this to
mhm.
myself?" But the reality is, we are. We
Yeah.
allow it, whether we mean to or not.
Mhm,
So I think it's just coming. Like for me, that was coming to that understanding. It was just like, whoa, okay, you
mhm,
know. I need to do things a little bit different, if not just to prove it. I would need it to validate that within
mhm.
my own consciousness.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it was like, okay, I will try it. If nothing else, I could always go back because I have nothing to lose, but I really need to know if this is the
Mhm,
case for me. Um, because for me, it was like, you know, the need to know and understand was just so great that, I mean, we talked about this in our session, but it was just, I literally gave up everything that TV, whatever, social media for years and years and years in a search, like just to know to the truth. And it has brought me many beautiful truths, and it's beautiful, but it's just the hardest part was just accepting the fact that I was creating it all.
mhm,
That was really hard because it was just like somebody made me no, well, I attracted that person. Now, why would I attract that person? The person dissed me to hurt me, etc. Not looking the upside of it, like you said.
mhm,
But then when I began being just mindful and taking a look at that, it's like, oh wow, even in some cases, I could see where my thoughts, I remember having a certain thought and then also having the experience.
Mhm.
And that was like a whoa moment for me because it was
Mhm.
like, holy crap, if I'm doing that and I just realized that, what else am I doing
Mhm.
unconsciously?
Mhm.
So then I really began to look into that more. But yeah, it's really, really, it's tough.
Mhm.
Said and done, because once we get in that situation, the survival mode kicks in. The brain is going like
Mhm.
pretty
I
much,
told you don't do this. How could you have put me in this position? Da, da, da. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it
Goes
just
full
goes
on
on and
panic.
on and on and on, and it's like, and then once it gets that lead, it just runs with that. And for me, it was at that point where I just have to go to sleep. I need to shut
Mhm.
this down. I need to
Mhm.
go to sleep and wake up and hopefully not pick back up where I left, where I last left
Yeah,
it, and pick up that bag and run with it again.
yeah.
And it happens, but but yeah, um, it was something you said about like in one of your work session
Mhm.
that that I thought was very interesting. And what came to me was a couple things you said. So the one is like when the child
Mhm.
uh, are experiencing something. So the thought that came to me was, so really, there's no past or future. Everything is happening now.
Mhm.
But even that child, so that it's trapped in like a bubble.
Mhm.
And because time is not linear like the way we think it, that's the past, this is
Mhm.
the future. But really,
Mm,
we're still operating from
Mhm.
that child is
Mhm.
really running the show. We may
mm,
see past, but really in the current reality, in this moment,
Yep.
because we're operating from that. So I thought, I was just like, wow, that's interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, it's incredible. And I think
Wow.
when I started to see more and more people surface very difficult things from childhood, that nudged me to go deeper
Mhm.
into different kinds of studies. And where I landed, and I'm going to go deeper into this next year when it becomes a full certification course. I start looking for resources like who explores that. And it's funny too about being intuitively guided. I'm
Mhm.
not spending hours at the library or trying to reach out. When
Wow.
I have a strong desire, I'm like, wow, I need to know what that is. It will come to me somehow. It'll be a podcast or something, or somebody sent me, in this case, a book recommendation. I was looking on Amazon and I was like, this book just doesn't, this is not the one, different topic. And then there was a recommended book, and I just felt, I just looked at the cover and I felt that hit. I can kind of feel I'm listening now, can feel the hits through my body. I click on it. I bought all three books eventually. And this is he's not a psychiatrist. He's a psychologist who is an MED. He's U.S. based, and now he's become kind of an unofficial mentor to me. He's incredible. He's still alive, and he spent a good part of his career working with people who, then it used to be called multiple personality, now it's called DID, dissociative identity. And what he found, he bridged psychology with esoteric. Subtle, non-physical realities. We'll call it the unseen aspects. And he found exactly what you said. That the way he explains it, and this deeply resonated with me, that when we have such a powerful experience as a child, it is almost like a piece of us splits off. And in cases where it leads to a more profound diagnosis like that, that's one thing. But we all, in psychology, you learn that we all have aspects of every disorder, quote here, disorder. Um, it's all a spectrum. Everyone, everything is on a spectrum. It's when something starts to disrupt your life, it becomes disordered, right?
mm,
So by him studying the most extreme versions of this, it's something we can apply to all of us. We don't have to have some kind of diagnosis to understand this. It's showing us something that is playing out in the extreme, but is applicable. So literally, he found that those are soul parts that are floating in the psychic space, still reliving in a loop
Yeah.
that very trauma or that very incident that happened, because we're lifting into the quantum field when we do this quantum work. And all that means is you're in a meditative state. You're not in your 3D body. That's it. You lift out and you access a different level of information. That
Mm,
child wants to be healed. It wants to be moved out of that space. And you're literally making it happen in that moment. That's what that means. You're connecting the older version, the present version of you. I'll say, talk to that child, tell them the truth. You've been through a whole life now. You see that there's more to that story that that child experienced. Hold the child, hug the child, tell them. Um, and then there's processes you can do from there to determine what needs to happen next. But those are the things that bubble up for people with when something in their experience gets too close to that hidden secret thing where there's a lot of armor and nobody can touch me there, not even my partner,
yeah.
nobody, right? There's
Right.
something there. There might be a child there that is like, please, please find a way to heal this because it's going to keep coming back and back and back many, many lifetimes from now, even if you don't address it now. So it's often our most secret, most intimate pain that we somehow have to find a door to open. You're not going to find it unless you're doing inner work, or I almost say like it's a divine timing. That's when somebody steps into your life and you're like, this person is just the worst. Like, why are they hurting me so badly? I don't understand. They are trying to help you get into a place
Mm,
where you're experiencing a very difficult inner scenario where you're going to
yeah.
dip in and say, all right, what is bubbling up in me? Why am I reacting in these wild ways that are just not me? It's like some other part of me takes over. It's that child screaming, or it's that vow you took, or whatever. You are not going to access that when you're on the lazy river just relaxing, because why would you? You're having you're having a great peaceful time. And so there's a lot happening. I have started to experience just in the last few months. Um, Very profound. It's when I'm waking up or falling asleep at night, I will see something that happened in my waking reality through a different lens. And I'm shown kind of what's happening on the energy level. It's just flashes of information. And sometimes it's something that was very difficult, or sometimes it's something that was so benign. And I see it that we're actually doing something totally different than what I saw us doing. We're bringing our energies together. We're helping someone. It's a very unusual thing, and I have no words for it yet. But I'm surrendering to that and just looking at, just observing it without thinking too much about it. But it's showing me that these experiences that I would have judged as really painful, or like, "Ah, why did that person do that?" I felt you meet someone new, you feel a really strong connection. You feel like they just come to smash you open. They literally are. That's your agreement that you're going to help each other dip in and uncover that thing that you need to uncover, and then that's it. That is the experience. Like, thank you. Um, it's very, very profound. So the more we work in these states, the more we learn to listen, the more we see that this is always happening. It is happening for us. We want it to happen because we want to be in our power. We want to move through an empowered place and understand that those aspects that need to be healed, that seems to only be healed in the physical. When you're on the
Mhm.
other side, you're learning, you're resting, you're enjoying yourself, you're creating. It's very nice from what I see, from my client work, from my own sessions. It's when you get down here where book learning turns into real world, like you got to get it done. And it sounds so simple and it's not. And we all struggle through it in different ways. And it
Mhm.
seems funny when you're out of it and you're like, how could that have been that self love? That was so hard for me. Yeah, that's hard for many people. And there's a reason for that because there's things that need to bubble up that maybe happened a long time ago, and again in linear time, but they're happening now, that you can tap into and say, okay, I get it now. I get why I act this way that is just so not me when somebody gets too close to something really painful because it needs to be healed.
So, what would you suggest to someone who is waking up to their spiritual journey?
Mm-hmm.
And you said in the beginning that they should slow down and quiet their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the daily practices that they can do to kind of like before they could meet someone like you,
Mm-hmm.
they would get in tune and kind of like how can they slow down, as you said?
Yeah, I think it's different for each person. Some people find that excelling at a sport is really reconnects them to the body, and they just feel that they have like a runner's high, or they're I even heard recently about Formula One racing and how that they're so precise, and getting to that level of precision, it takes you into a whole different zone. That's another downshift in your brainwave. I'm sure they're in a totally different frequency there. So it's listening to your inner being and just taking any step. People don't need to see me. It's only certain people that might be drawn to something like this. But you're going to find whatever you need, whether it's this kind of work or anything else, just by listening. Tap into your body. Um, Try to disconnect from the chatter. For some people, it's meditation. They meditate for the first time and they tell me some kind of non-physical energies have appeared, and they gave them information. Other people say, I've been sitting for 30 years in my meditation hut and nothing is happening. Maybe I've become a calmer person, but it doesn't mean that it's like one size fits all, or it has to be this or that. I do find that the prognosis, the recommendation from the higher self is often you need to meditate more. But that
Right.
does not have to be your gateway. If that feels unnatural, you're not sure what it's even doing. Don't force it. Don't force yourself to do anything. Nothing that you enjoy will come from that. Allow yourself to listen to yourself, follow your own inner urges. They're different person to person. How people experience these states are different based on our unique physiology, our soul journey, whatever it is. So just trust that the answers are in you. You getting into a good feeling place and moving and making decisions from that place is what's going to open things up for you. And from there, you will know what you need. And from there, you will know even more of what you need. So it just keeps opening and opening and opening until you realize subtle and material, it's one thing. It's always been one thing. But now I've expanded myself to understand that, to be able to witness it. Once you witness that, more and more things will come into your experience that will rock your world. You'll say, oh,
Mm.
some people say, I'm getting all these synchronicities. I can't believe it. I'm
Yeah.
getting waves of bliss. What is, like, how, like, this is incredible. And when you get those waves of bliss, you say, whoa, that is the only thing that's real. Because when you feel it, you're like, oh, and I was angry at this person, or I judged myself for having this feeling. Like, it's a lie. It's a story. I don't need to judge myself or anyone else for anything they do here. We're plugged into um, kind of like a game. That's how I see it at this point. And we're trying to wake up from the game to remember that we wrote the rules for this game. We get to play it how we need to play it. It is
Yeah.
happening for us, but that doesn't happen in one day or overnight. And if that sounds ridiculous, then just toss it to the side. You don't have to force that. It's just one person's viewpoint, because my reality is reflecting to me what I need to see. So there is no right or wrong way, but you need to understand that you're extremely powerful. No one can take your power away from you. We give power. Sometimes we feel like we have to give up our power. There are reasons for that too. Good chance to dip into your subconscious and understand why. Um, you can heal things through understanding, and it's only going to come from deep within you. Chasing the experiences of others can help us move energy and can have different effects to help us kind of understand what to even want or how certain things might feel. But ultimately, it's understanding through your own experience what really resonates. It may make no sense to the people around you. That's
Mhm.
okay. At some point, that's also suspending judgment and saying, I won't know the answer. I won't know why till after this event has wrapped up, till after this life has wrapped up. And I'm going to be okay with that. And I'm going to
Mm.
trust that my inner being is leading me somewhere I need to be. Even if at one point I fail and it's so painful and the ego is triggered and it wants to burn everything down and go back to the way it was, you won't. You'll never go back to the way it was, because you're always up
Mhm.
leveling as you listen to yourself. So it's iterative. It doesn't have to be sudden. It doesn't mean you have to be a monk or a nun, like I thought. It just means that you're gonna feel more aligned. You're gonna feel more happy. People around you are gonna feel it. They're gonna wonder what's going on with you, and it
Mhm.
gives them permission to do their work too. So there's no downside. Sometimes you will have painful experiences, but they're gonna come no matter what, because we're here to learn. We're not here to relax. This is, I mean, it's nice to relax. It's good to slow down, but this is like a work mission. You're here to to grow yourself. This is kind of a school. I've heard that from a lot of wise teachers, and that resonates with me. I do think this is a school. So make it a good experience.
Yeah, wow, I agree with you 100%. Not, you say don't force it.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important because if we're not feeling it inside, if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't align, or there's a resistance, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
now it's not the right time. There's been time with me where there's certain things I want to read, but it's just for whatever reason I just resist it, and I would try to force myself, and I just wouldn't get it. And I just become more agitated at
Mm-hmm.
that, and I would just like, you know what, forget this, and then I would move on to a different direction. And by moving to in a different direction, essentially, in a weird way, that over here that I didn't like, that frustrated me,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, oh wow, it makes sense. And now I can
Mm-hmm.
actually read it and enjoy it and really understand
Mm-hmm.
what it's saying to me. And I love how you say that, life is happening for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's not happening to me, because I've heard that so many times, and it holds so true for me. Because like what you were saying, it's just if we could just trust
Mm-hmm.
that that all is well, really all is well at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it kind of reminds me of that movie, what is it, The Hunger Game, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sometimes when I think of life, I kind of see it like in a weird way. It just kind of just, I have that image and not sure why, but I do. And it's like everything is okay, everything is fine. And we're
Mm-hmm.
just playing this game of life to grow, to become more. And
Yeah.
the only way we can become more of it is if we go through it, because
Mm-hmm.
you know because knowledge, I feel like words don't teach, but experience, it's like what it actually when we really get it.
Yeah.
So and that's how I feel with that. But yeah, don't force it. That's such a great point. Because it's just, don't force it. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Not this time, maybe another
Mm-hmm.
time, but just keep it in
Mm.
mind. I had a teacher, Keith Haswell, which you're very familiar with, Attila. And one thing
Yeah.
he said to me that stayed with me was, also keep an open mind, because only an open mind contains the wisdom of the
Mm-hmm.
universe. And when he said that, that
Mm-hmm.
resonated with me. And ever since I heard that, like, okay, I don't understand this. I'm frustrated. I'll leave it alone, but I always kept it in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I would go back, it's like it makes so much sense. And I don't know. I just think life is really incredibly beautiful. Like sitting here with you guys talking about this, and it feels
Yeah.
really good. It feels
Mm-hmm.
really natural. It feels like this is where it is. So, and having said that, it's like I know within me, like it's a confirmation for me that this is
Mm-hmm.
where it needs to be, where it is, and where I need to be, and where I will thrive, and whatever, all that
Mm-hmm.
good stuff that comes with it. It's just that sense of knowing. It's just really incredible.
And just to echo what you said, I think too, this feels so good. This conversation feels so good. And I feel like when I'm in it, whatever it is, and it feels timeless, like I'm not thinking about anything that happened yesterday or this morning or what I'm going to eat later, what I need to rush off and do. I'm literally just here, like fully listening to what you just said. Right. And that statement hit me about what your teacher said. That is also how you know. That's what it feels like to be in flow. You're just there. It's just happening. And it just feels, it's just moving through you. You've stepped into something, and it's like a current that's carrying you. You don't have those worries. I need to control the outcome of this, or I wonder what it's going to lead to. You don't have, they're just, those thoughts are not present. The chatter is not there. You're just receiving, kind of sending, receiving, listening, and letting it flow. That's what it is. That's what that feeling is. That's the confirmation that whether it's a sport or meditation or conversation or whatever it might be, it's that timeless, weightless, free flowing feeling that kind of takes you. You're like, oh, this is what I want all the time.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for saying that because I felt that too.
Mhm.
It's just, and I think that's when we get in trouble with ourselves. It's when we go outside of ourselves rather than go within. When we go
Mhm.
out trying, that forcing, it's what
Mhm.
really, that in itself is what brings about um, that feeling of
Mhm.
discomfort.
Mhm.
Like I'm forcing something, and we really, um, to me, that would be a sign, I guess,
Yeah.
wait a minute, to back off. Like there's a resistance going on. You need to back
Mhm.
off, kind of thing. But yeah, that mental trying, I think
Mhm.
it just takes so much energy.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's rather than just kind of going with the flow, like kind of like what we're doing, and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
just awesome. Um, but yeah, wow. I mean, we covered so much, and I could sit here and talk to you guys like forever in this type of conversation. I mean, I know when I was at your studio, we had, we just after the session, we just, continue to talk. And
Mhm.
when I met Jules Attila, she was just, oh my god, just day one, we instantly connected, and
Mhm.
I can see.
Yeah.
and it
I
was
can
just
feel
like
it. Yeah.
free flowing. Everything was just like a free flow, like.
Mhm.
And honestly, for me, and I realized from that experience that for me, it taught me a lot because when a person's open and free flowing, it's so much easier for me to open up.
Mhm.
And but if I feel again that sense where a person is like kind of holding back, then
Mhm.
for some reason I tend to close. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
what are they
Mhm.
hiding? What is going on here? Because
Yep.
I'm picking up on that frequency.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
um
this work I finally understood. I went to Indonesia and took a class on heart center because I guess that's what you do in Indonesia. Everybody was in these classes, and I realized, they're showing how to do different types of breath work and chanting, things like that. But it's all these experiences where you dip into yourself and try to move in a different way. It has to be done from the heart, and the energy of the heart is free flowing. The heart has no structure. I said this, I got a session done for me recently where I said this in such an eloquent way. I don't think I can repeat it because it's definitely like higher self talking. And basically, my higher self said, in a nutshell, when you stand in the energy of love, which is heart centeredness, which is just being in
Mhm.
your heart, no judgment, no fear, just being, all the structures that you have to house your reality, they're good. They're not going to be able to hold that energy because it's big, it's free flowing, it's moving. So if you've got some rigid structures of like, if you want to stand in love with me, you got to do it in my language. You got to give me gifts. You got to do this. You got to spend time with me in this way. You got to call me every day. Well, you're pushing the other person, whether it's your lover or your
Mhm.
friend or your child or whoever. Um, you're pushing them into your structure, and they're trying to stand in love with you. That energy is going to keep moving, and if you let them stay in your space in love, they're going to break all your structures down. And that's why love
Yeah.
hurts, because you're trying to catch a free flowing energy. And if you
Yeah.
have, we want those structures to break, so the person that's coming with love, however whatever that manifests as, um, it can hurt if you have a lot of structures that need to be broken, that you yourself want broken, so you can have a free flowing experience where you can be as big as you need to be, create what you came here to create, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. So you got to
Mm.
shut all that down and let those people in. It might
It's,
hurt, or it might be so beautiful. You don't know. Um,
mm,
Most likely it's going to be very beautiful, but it's when that structure is collapsing, your ego might rage and say, I knew I shouldn't have let anyone in this
yeah.
space. Well, that's why you keep doing it. Like Rumi, that Rumi poem, that is my favorite quote from Rumi. You have to keep breaking your heart till it opens. That's those structures falling apart. That's letting people
Oh
in.
wow.
Yeah, and
Oh,
just
wow.
being in
That's
the space,
powerful.
right?
Yeah.
wow, that's
Ooh, it's not
incredibly.
easy.
Yep.
It's just so interesting you say that because I was thinking I had wrote it down earlier. You had said something in reference to that, and I love how this is like all coming full
Mhm.
circle. I don't
Mm.
remember exactly what you said, but it had to do with and what came through to me was um, how when we move, when we make that shift, that all the energy that was holding the old pattern, when that false begins to fall off, and that's when everything in our lives breaks, like break loose. When hell break loose, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's a good thing, which
Mm-hmm.
is what you just said. To the
Mm-hmm.
point you said, because that just means we have shifted, we have moved into the unknown, and that's where we can start to create this beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing. Because the known, well, obviously it's known, and it's
Yeah.
there, but it's the crossing that path or making that change from the known into the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and being, and just to trust and to allow that to come in, and it just comes so beautifully. And
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, oh my god, I got that. That is
We all know
beautiful.
it. We've all felt it. Yep.
Yeah,
Because that's that inner pain. That's the pain in a place where
yeah,
you thought, oh, I didn't even know this intimate place existed in me. And now there's pain there. There's somebody breaking all the china in there. And
Yeah.
the ego is like, I told you so. You shouldn't be doing this work. Shouldn't be looking within. It's all dangerous. We're going to die.
Yeah.
And then you realize, no, 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 no. I just up leveled all the things that
Yeah.
needed to clear out. They are moving out. And again, it might take 2 days. It might take a month. It might take a year for you to get to the other side of that experience, see what new things have stepped into your experience, see how much more aligned that experience is, and understand that the destruction that just happened that you witnessed wasn't you dying. It was literally you opening up and stepping into yourself.
Yeah.
and
And so many
allowing
people,
things to come in. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and so many
Clearing the
people just
space.
numb
Sorry.
themselves from this experience. It's
Mhm.
crazy because they just get scared of it and they
Yeah,
step back.
and some have had so much trauma that they are
Yeah.
protecting themselves, and that
Yeah.
needs to be healed. That's not um, and you see like some things that bubble up in session 20 years ago. I would have no I would be devastated to hear even some of the stories that I hear from clients now. And now
Mm.
having this structure of understanding, we plan these experiences for the most part. I mean, there's a lot of free will involved, obviously. It's not like it's written, but the intent is written. The general intent of what you want to learn is written by you. So it's going through all these things, seeing that we are making this happen for ourselves, and we're actually here to do something really big. Each one of us, whatever that looks like. It could be to learn a certain lesson. It could be to bring something into the world that's never been here before. It could be to move through the world in a way that moves other people to just pause and say, "Whoa, how are they even doing this? Like, how
Mm.
is this person so happy all the time, or how are they so free flowing? Things just seem to come easily for them, or they have so few failures, and when they fail it's like they come back even stronger. Like, how is that happening?" You're giving them permission to move. So by aligning yourself, you're giving a gift to everyone around you too. It's like a big
Mm.
ripple going out, and it's really beautiful. So we need to hold a space for ourselves. And also, I think, God, we judge ourselves and our reactions and our emotions and our behaviors so harshly. We're often, for most people, their own worst critic. You asked before what could be something to do just to play in these spaces. Just observe what happened and don't judge. If you feel a raw emotion coming, you don't have to
Mhm.
express it in front of other people. You can go in a safe space or be with a close person who loves you, who's not going to kind of use that as ammunition against you. Let it come through in an honest way. Let it be raw
Mm.
and observe it
Wow.
like you're watching a movie. What came through? Was it anger, grief, sad? Was it betrayal? Why betrayal?
Yeah.
Was that really kind of proportional with what happened, or does it seem like there's something deeper? That's when we start to see, okay, there's more to this story, because what just happened to me is not proportional with the amount of emotion that just moved through my body. And also,
Mm.
sometimes we trap the emotion in the body that needs to be cleared out as well. That's part of what we can do in these spaces and any other spaces like this, through breath work, through even sound healing. You get into these altered states, sometimes things start moving through you, people start having emotions. It's very common. So
Mm.
um, there's no one right path, there's a million paths, and there's a lot of people stepping into these paths as practitioners. So something sounds interesting, like just try it, see what happens to you. You might be very surprised in a good way. Something's moving, something wants to be loose, free.
free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
where can people actually find more of your content or more information from what you give to people?
Yeah, sure. They can find me on puremetaphysics.com. I have a YouTube channel where I've put out some session excerpts. I also have in the blog, I'm not a prolific blogger, I just have a few posts there, but there's a few sample exercises you can do. They don't have ads. It's a chance to just learn to dip within yourself and see what that experience is like from a sensory level. If you don't see a movie or you fall asleep, don't give up if it draws you. But just try it a few times. They're 15 minutes, 35 minutes. See how you experience something. When energy wants to move, it doesn't care what modality you use or who you work with. It,
Oh
it
yeah.
just wants to move out. It's been knocking on your door and you're probably feeling it in some way. So
Oh my
sometimes,
God, that's
yeah, just dip in there. See if something moves for you. It's simple stuff.
Oh
yeah,
my God, I could go on for hours,
I
but
know. This was great. Thank you guys so
yeah.
much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And until next time.
can
Um,
I ask one last question from Jules?
Yeah,
yeah.
of
If
course.
if you'd hack your microphone right now and can tap into the matrix so everyone in the world can hear it, what advice would you give them? Or what would you say? Or just a little sound?
That's a great. That's a
It's
great
like
suggestion.
I see you. That
I
would
mean,
freak
you're
out
you're
everyone.
so powerful. You're so powerful. Like
Oh
the
wow.
power inside of you is like more than a nuclear generator. It could power
Oh
this
wow.
whole planet.
Mm.
If you give yourself a chance to tap into even a fraction of that power, you'll never give your power away to any experience, system, whatever, ideology that holds you in a box, that holds you in a cage. You will know whatever it is you're here to do. Things will start to open for you in profound ways, small at first, and then bigger, bigger, bigger,
Mm,
bigger. And you won't want to stop them. And then you will see, oh my gosh, these metaphysical things that they're intermingled with this reality. They were never separate,
mm,
but now I can perceive them because I'm listening. That cut on the hand we started with in the beginning of the session, like it's something,
mm.
it's not random. Nothing is random. um, but also using the mind to try to add meaning to it is not going to go anywhere. That's just guessing games. It's when you start tapping into these other abilities that altered state experiences help you have. And by the way, there's no substance in hypnosis. You're not going for an ayahuasca journey, right? That's a different type of adventure. This is literally just you dipping into yourself and seeing, oh, all of that was there. I was able to do that. Sometimes people are crying after the session. Sometimes people are crying after breath work, an hour of breath work in a studio, right? So it's not like this is the way you
Oh yeah.
have to do it this way, but you're really powerful. If you've forgotten that or you don't feel it or that doesn't resonate, uh, that is the truth. We're all extremely powerful, and we it's our right to be in that power, to have all our power with us. So go reclaim it however feels good to you, but it needs to be with you for you to do what you came here to do.
My God, I just got goosebumps from
That's
it really
cool.
resonated with me.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys so much. This is great.
Yeah, this is so amazing. I feel like, I feel like we've done this, like it was just designed for us to connect
Hmm.
this time and space. And I feel that a lot with Attila and with you too, Jules, just the way we connected everything.
Hmm.
And I say that because I know Attila and I, we have these so many synchronicities together. As
Hmm.
like he'll bring
Yeah.
information and I'll read it. I'm like, oh my God. And it'll
Hmm.
just like boom.
Yeah.
I'm just
And the
Hmm.
like,
other way
and
around too.
it's like we have this great like and I just love that, and I
Hmm.
honor that, and same with you, Jules. It was just day one. I felt so comfortable, like
Hmm.
so much so like I was crazy enough to drive like hour and a half to just go see her because like the connection that I felt, and so that just didn't even matter. It's my point. It was just like wow, I'm
Thank
really
you.
good, and it was just the space. Thank you for holding that space for me,
Hmm.
and it was just such an incredible um experience for me before and after, and I continue to learn
Thank
like
you.
more. Oh my gosh. And just like for me that I will share one thing that came after like all my experience was just something very profound, and that was harmony through conflict. I don't know if you remember that. That was something that came out like after our session. It was like harmony through conflict, and
Mm-hmm.
that helped me understand
Mm,
the dynamic of my family, the relationship
Mm-hmm.
with my family. Like we discussed, and everything just made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, wow. And it's just like
Mm-hmm.
the more we know, the more we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been like very helpful to me. Uh,
harmony through conflict.
That's
Like
yeah.
it's
That's
fascinating.
profound.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just like, wow, like
Mm-hmm.
finding, so it was just like finding harmony through conflict. So we have these
Mm-hmm.
conflicts, we fight each other. And then
Mm,
it started with me, my family, and then I started to look at it just like also on a global scale, like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it was just
ties
very,
in beautifully to life is happening for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly. And it was just like,
Amazing.
wow, this is so profound. So
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for that. Honestly,
Thanks for spending the day with me and for this.
Love
This is beautiful.
spend more days. Seriously, thank you
yeah,
so
I
much.
would love to do this. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I'm gonna stop recording now. But I want,
Like our hearts are wide open. My heart's wide open. Like I'm leaning in. Like what are they trying to say? What needs to happen here?
Mm,
And they're just some people say I've never told anyone that, or oh my
mm,
gosh, it felt so good to get that out. But there's no, when you get to the other side too, from everything I've seen, there's no judgment. There's those soul parts that can get stuck in a belief of judgment in the psychic
mm.
space.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
have to retrieve those too and be like, come back into the soul, let that go. That was a story. And then they're like, oh, my relatives are here. Like it's incredible
Mhm.
what I see through these sessions. And I was a blank slate for it, but it all happens by staying in the heart and just allowing things, like allow it to happen. Even if it feels like the mind is like, this is crazy, please don't allow this to happen. Like run, retreat, let it happen.
Mm,
And stay in the heart, play that game and just observe it. And you'll see, oh, like beautiful things start to happen, like with
yeah.
people you wouldn't even expect. But it's like everything can be beautiful if you try and try and try and try to stay in the heart. And then it becomes like, it just becomes where you live, and then nothing can really, I mean, things will still happen, don't get me wrong, because you have to keep learning, I have to keep learning. um, but it's not, I just had a painful experience recently and I was like, oh, really? But then I was shown it from that other perspective. I was falling into dream time and I was really, like, I was literally shown a vow I took, that's why I kept talking
Mm,
about it. And I was shown what happened. Like I'll see the moment replay, and it's almost like that person is showing me something else actually happening during that event. And I saw one of my chakras burst open. And after that, I started writing. I wrote a whole book chapter. I just sat down on a Tuesday because those are like usually that's the day I do other projects. And I've been writing for years, like fragmented pieces. And this just came through like a whole solid chapter, just moved through. And I was like, that was that experience. So while
mm,
here I was on the struggle bus thinking, oh, that was so painful. How did I misread that? I hadn't misread it. I let it happen. I tried to stay in the heart. The ego wanted to rage, and it did at some moments. And I just let that be
mhm,
too.
mhm.
But then the effect was undeniable. And if I didn't have that experience, I would still be stuck in that vow. I would still be stuck. And it was a deep one. It was the
Mhm.
ego did not want that to come out, and it came out anyway. So, and then all these kinds of experiences open up. So,
Amazing.
ooh.
okay, I
Ooh,
love
thank
that. I love
you.
that. I love hearing that because it's so true. Even for me, like, it's when we let go, even the slightest little thing, everything around us change.
Yeah.
I kid you not.
Very
Like,
cool.
like the people you would meet, like like I go to this place all the time, but today was different. I met this person. This person was just so interesting, had a
Mm-hmm.
different information, and it was like, wow. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's at that moment I have to stop and ponder on it, like,
Mm-hmm.
really think about it, and not just say, "Oh, okay, that was a nice experience. Well, that was
Mm-hmm.
cool," but to
Mm-hmm.
just really ponder on that, and it's just so
Mm-hmm.
profound, and everything changes. When we
Mm-hmm.
change, everything literally changes.
Yep.
So to me that alludes that what's holding it is energy.
Mm-hmm.
So in the moment we shift our energy, then we just gather other like more something that's more compatible to our energy.
And I think I also like when you say that, I imagine our energy through that experience, like bursting open.
Yeah.
And that breaks all the structures that were holding it small in that phase. But that also expands you out to these other experiences that are waiting, these people that are just waiting to connect with you, these
Yes.
whatever needs to unfold that is at this level is now accessible to you. You will be moving differently.
Yeah.
And then another thing will happen and it makes you even bigger. Your energy is like huge. And suddenly things that were impossible 2 years ago, they're happening regularly to you. And you see that this is a thing I can cultivate. Go deeper into it. Okay, yeah, there's going to be something, there might be some friction, but it's going to be less and less. It's going to be faster and faster. And what I expand into is going to be so massive that nothing is stopping this flow. Nothing's going to get in
Oh
my way.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm getting
That's what
goosebumps.
we're here to do.
Same.
Mhm.
Same.
But it's so true. Like I felt that. I
Look, we're all
felt.
smiling. Look at us. We were supposed to do this today. That's for sure.
Oh
Oh
my
boy.
God. It is. Oh wow, that was so powerful what you just said. It is so true. Like it literally just went. I felt it like shoot through my back, like my spine.
Mhm.
Like woo. Yeah, that was
Because
powerful.
something old has to go to clear out space for
Yeah,
that, the
absolutely,
expansiveness. Yep. So
absolutely.
let it go. Time to let it
Let it
go.
go.
Whatever you're holding on to, let it go. It's
Yeah.
time. You won't die. You're going to be very happy. You're going to be very surprised in the best possible way. Surprised in
Mhm.
ways your mind could have never anticipated. It'll be 100 times bigger. And it will align to you, what you want, what feels resonant to you, because you're doing the work to break down those structures and be big and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you see there's no limit to that. So that's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful. I was Attila and I were having this conversation this week. This I think it was last week. Last week,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like he was like, "Hey, this is some things I can't believe. The more I think I know, this is happening." And I was like, "That's great!" I'm like doing the happy dance.
I
Exactly.
love those moments.
I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Doing a happy dance." I said, "I'm doing a happy dance for you right now." It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what's happening?" I was like, "Hey, just go with that, and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
laugh, you're gonna dance because." And
Yeah, your body's gonna want to move, right? When you're yeah.
Yeah.
because it just goes back to what you said. It's just something trying to get out, and then we're
Mm-hmm.
just. And I feel like our body, because we've trained it emotionally to feel or think a certain way over and over, like opening a doorknob, for example. I mean, we're not sitting there saying grab it and turn it, but it just has become so automatic, like
Mm-hmm.
with just things in life, how we respond. So the moment something seems off balance, we start to clench. Wait a minute, what's happening? But
Mm-hmm.
it's just like you said, Jules. It's just let it go and just let
Mm-hmm.
it go. And yeah, it's just
And you're in control, just not in the way you think. You are
yeah,
in
Yeah.
control. This is your experience, but you're not in
It's such.
control in the micro. Like you don't control the moment or the outcome. You control the whole thing.
yeah,
And you
It's such
let
a.
all these things, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
let it go, let it happen.
The
You are in
the
control.
more control you get, the more you let it go, and it's
Mhm.
like, wait, what?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah, it's like a kid, right? When they see it in front
Yeah.
of the big wave and they're like
Hmm.
terrified of that wave. As you said that, I that image came to me, and
Hmm.
sometimes that's what it feels like.
Mm.
An adult who's observing it. That wave, it's nothing. That could probably
Hmm.
define yourself. There's no.
Yeah.
But when we're like going through, we see it, we're like,
Hmm.
"Oh my God, see someone
Oh
happening,
yeah.
freaking out," and it's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, just you're fine, you're safe."
Hmm.
So, oh my God, this is so beautiful, guys. I mean, it really is.
Yep. Agree. 100%.
Wow, this is wow. All I can say is wow. We need more talks like this. I feel.
Hmm.
I
Mm.
feel like like for years, guys. Honestly, I mean, Attila, this, but for years, and Jules, you too, because I've shared it with you. Like, I didn't know it was called metaphysics. I didn't know these things, but
Mhm.
I was studying them. But I just didn't know who to connect with.
Hmm.
Like, and it was just like, who talks about this? And people are trying to
Hmm.
like, oh, this is that, but it's just so incredible. Like when you come
Hmm.
together with like-minded people who understand the language you're
Mhm.
speaking,
Hmm.
it's just like, wow.
And about metaphysics, literally the term, I was looking for a domain to buy years ago. I was like, I need to call
Mhm.
this something. And I heard Michael Beckwith speaking in a YouTube short, and he was emphasizing, he was like driving a point home. And he said, and that right there, that's pure metaphysics. And it hit me
Mm.
so hard. I'm like, that's the name. That's what
Yeah.
I've been looking for. And then I
Oh my
sat,
gosh.
and then I sat in meditation, and I
Yeah.
literally saw there was this young woman that worked in
Yeah,
my corporate
yeah.
job. Oh my gosh. And she appeared in my mental screen, and she had just quit that corporation to start to become an influencer. And I
Mm.
saw her face on my mental screen, and she was talking about pure metaphysics. Like she was like explaining something about it. And I saw her face say pure metaphysics. And I was like, that's it. So I Googled the domain. Is it available? It was available. And that was it. That's just how it came. And you think, when you're ready to receive, when you're just in an open state and you're listening, because the hit came through my body. As soon as I heard him say those two words together, I can't say I deeply knew what metaphysics was even then,
Mhm.
right? But it was so clear. I was like, that's it. That's it. Literally, that's it. It was so easy. It was so easy from there.
Yeah. For the
Yeah.
people who aren't familiar with the term metaphysics, like myself, what does it mean?
I think to me, again, this is just my little slice of it. Metaphysics, it's all those subtle experiences happening in the invisible world
Mhm.
that do overlay with our physical reality, but we may have no words to describe them. It's just something unusual happening in your space, and it seems like it is coming from the invisible into the visible. That's
Right.
how I look at it. And that's everything. I mean, that happens to us daily. We just are either paying attention to it or not. And it's usually something really profound or kind of unusual. Maybe it comes at dream time. But that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. To the invisible, to the visible. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But isn't that how
Cool.
everything works too, though? It's so funny. Like you put it so perfectly. Like, oh my god, and that's how it is because our thoughts, everything that we thought would create. And so, I mean, just to use the example, take a look around us. Everything was once a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, even the clothes I'm wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything that we have that we own was once a thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, that's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Jules, thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Thank you both. This was excellent.
Yeah, definitely. We have to do this again, and we'll stay in touch. And yeah, do you have anything else, Attila?
I wrote like so many questions out, and as Jules, you were like, if you'd had my questions in front of you, you went almost like one to one and like answering them. I'm like, okay, I guess
That's
I'm.
funny.
That's fantastic. I love
Yeah,
that.
we were all clicked into the same
Oh, for sure.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
So
have a
thank you.
great day, guys. Thank you.
Jules.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, you too.
You
All
too.
right. Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.
Bye bye.
Bye. See ya.